Rebel, rebel, got your mother in a whirl. She don't know why you listen to this girl. You like me and I like it all. Hello everyone, this is Gene from NYC again, and I'm feeling in a somewhat playful mood despite the terrible cold that I have, which I think is pretty apparent through the sound of my voice. Today's video will actually not be about Street Fighter or the Anniversary Collection, though I will say that I actually was playing it a few days ago, actually a few days before the fire. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please check out my I Almost Died videos. Those are not clickbait, that is 100% truth, and I will continue to provide updates as they become available. But I wanted to do something tonight that was game related instead of real life related. So first of all, let me just thank everybody who has shown me support and good wishes during my time of trial here. I'm not going to summarize it here. Again, there's the other videos for that if you're interested, but a big thanks to everybody who has shown their support, and to the person, I believe it was, shoot, I forget your name, but there was someone in one of the videos who suggested a GoFundMe. I'm considering that, given that while a lot of money has been lent to me, I have very good friends and they have given me money. I also have to borrow some money to meet certain expenses that wouldn't have been a problem to meet had there not been a fire. And I didn't have to do things like buy a bed for $500. Otherwise, it was sleeping on the floor. So I'm considering that. I haven't made a decision yet about it, but again, I'll mention that in another video. I believe that I've picked up a few subscribers from the last time I did a game-related or just nerd pop culture related video. So I would like to thank those people. Thank you for subscribing. I continue to. I hope you enjoy the content. When the content is not about my real life. So let me get to the point of the video. I am going to be responding to the Sindel reveal, and especially the reveal about the changes to her backstory and her character. Now, especially if you're not new here, especially if you are new here, you may be wondering why I'm using the Street Fighter video game while I'm talking about Mortal Kombat. Simple. My trusty copy of Mortal Kombat Trilogy is currently locked in the old apartment where the fire was, and management won't allow me into my own apartment to go get my things. This was one of the two video games that I left with several days earlier when everything happened, so this is the only prop I got. At least until I'm able to get back into my apartment, hopefully next week, to get the few remaining items that I have to pick up, including my video game collection. Assuming that it wasn't destroyed. I hope it wasn't destroyed by the fire or the firemen putting out the fire. But anyway, back to the point of the video. So, if you may not have known, I think if you're watching this video, you've probably heard by now, but in case you didn't know, Sindel, Queen Sindel, the Mortal Kombat series, has been confirmed DLC. She's part of the first pack of DLC characters to be released. I believe the first pack of DLC characters is Shang Tsung. He's the big one. I was super stoked to hear about Shang, especially given that Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa, who played him in the 1995 film, both voiced him, and they both used his NetherRealm, I should say, NetherRealm Studios used Kari's likeness both from the film for young Shang and his current appearance now for old Shang for the game. So I think it's awesome that he's been picked up to play the character again. Other characters that were revealed in I think Combat Pack 1, I think it's called, was Sindel, Nightwolf, Spawn, and Ash. It's pretty much confirmed that it's Ash from Evil Dead, and most likely Terminator, right? As I said in another video, DLC characters like Spawn and Terminator and Ash from Evil Dead don't really appeal to me personally, but to each their own. Right, but it was revealed recently. I actually learned about this morning when I was watching a video by The Fourth Snake. I really like his videos. He does the Wasted Potential series, where he talks about it. It's very Mortal Kombat based, but he talks about a character's storyline and what he likes and dislikes, and basically how he would do the storyline. I really like his stuff. So if you haven't heard of him, check it out. He has a lot of videos on various Mortal Kombat characters. That's sort of his thing, looking at the lore and examining it and sort of reimagining it. So anyway, I saw his video about the Sindel DLC, and he made this video about how upset he was about her backstory, about how it was being retconned. So I decided to check it out for myself because I didn't want to just go on secondhand opinions. And it's true. Sindel's backstory for MK11 has been completely retconned. For those who may not know, if you're watching this video, you probably know. But in case you're not familiar, I'll try to briefly summarize. Sindel's backstory, generally speaking, has always been one of tragedy, whether it be in the original series of games, the original timeline, or in the new series that started with MK9 back in 2011. So to summarize, Sindel is, or at least Sindel has been, traditionally, this is generally how her storyline goes, is the Queen of Edenia, right? Loving wife to King Gerard, loving wife to King Gerard, loving mother to her daughter, Princess Kitana. The Edenians lose Mortal Kombat. Khan takes over. He kills Gerard, right, and claims Sindel as his bride, claims Kitana as his daughter. Sindel, out of grief, kills herself, but her soul does not go on to the afterlife as she may have hoped. Thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years later, she is resurrected during the events of Mortal Kombat 3. If you don't know what the events of MK3 were, it's basically a merger. That's pretty much the theme of it. It's a merger. Khan basically tries to go outside the rules of the Mortal Kombat tournament. Since his warriors lost Mortal Kombat and Mortal Kombat 2, he decides to circumvent the rules and basically resurrects Sindel on Earth. He resurrects Sindel on Earth so that he can have legal right to reclaim his queen. It gives him justification to invade Earth and to merge the realm. That's basically the background of Mortal Kombat 3, Ultimate 3, Trilogy, all that stuff. So that's generally her storyline. Well, there's a little bit more to it. When she's resurrected on Earth, she's brainwashed, she's under Khan's control. Eventually, Kitana is able to rescue her, and Kitana, Jade, and of course the other warriors of light are able to restore her memory, reveal her past to her, and after that, she becomes a heroic character and works with the other good Edenians such as Kitana, her daughter, Jade, and others to oppose Khan, free Edenia, and rule as a benevolent ruler. Long story short, that's her storyline throughout the first series of games. That's pretty much it. In the reboot, it's pretty much the same. The major difference being that her death in the beginning of her story is a self-sacrifice as opposed to a suicide. But a lot of the major points stay the same in the reboots, to my knowledge anyway. Starting with MK9. She dies. She doesn't move on into the afterlife. In MK9, or just a new timeline, Quan Chi is the one who resurrects her, uses her to kill all the good guys, and then she pretty much becomes queen of the Nether Realm, right? And at least as of MK10, to my knowledge, and given that I haven't played MK10, I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, let me know. But according to MK10, she was pretty much queen of the Netherrealm, right? But she was still brainwashed, right? So you still had the main basic elements of her story. She's a benevolent queen. She kills herself for one reason or another. She's resurrected on Earth as a brainwashed slave, basically, to Shao Kahn, and she does his bidding until the brainwashing is ended, or at least in 10, she was still under mind control, so she still wasn't herself. But generally, that's how it goes. Once she's freed of the brainwashing, she is, of course, herself again, the benevolent queen, and she works to free her people, restore her realm, and rule peacefully. Right? Right. So, what has NetherRealm done this time? Why are people so upset? Well, NetherRealm, for whatever their reasons, has retconned Sindel's backstory entirely in a way that it can't fit even into the current timeline, which started with MK9. So basically, according to the official bio from, I believe, Warner Brothers, Sindel has now always been an evil queen, right? An evil queen who's basically will shack up with anybody to hold on to power. Basically, the official bio says that she's a woman of wealth and of power, and that when she realized that I'm summarizing here, but that when she realized that Khan was going to destroy, was basically going to take over her realm, that she basically helped Khan and his forces. I'm guessing in this case Devora, the bug lady, kill King Gerard, and that she willingly married Shao Kahn. Now this flies in the face of everything that Sindel has ever been in the Mortal Kombat series. And I'm going to do my best to explain why this retcon is honestly a betrayal. It belongs in the ninth circle of hell. It is a betrayal of who Sindel is as a character. Now, here's the way I see it, just from a storytelling perspective, and as someone who sort of studies storytelling. Mortal Kombat has always used a specific type of storytelling, has used thematic storytelling, has used archetypes, right? Liu Kang is the hero, Scorpion and Sub-Zero are reflections of each other, they're rivals. In fact, Mortal Kombat, one of the things I think they do very well is the whole light and shadow comparison. The Edenian characters tend to have shadow versions of themselves. For example, Kitana, right, is the good girl. She's the beautiful, elegant, good girl princess. Her shadow is Melina, who's twisted, who's violent, who's vile, who's ugly, who is in toxic relationships and all this other stuff, right? With Jade, who's defined by her loyalty. You have Tanya, however you say it, who's defined by her treachery, right? So there's always been this, light and shadow, good and bad sort of contrast with the Edenian characters. But Mortal Kombat, especially in the original timeline, always used archetypes and thematic storytelling. Whoever is making these decisions regarding the character bios and their stories, who's ever doing that currently, because back in the day it used to be John Tobias. I think he was, I don't know if he was ever a head writer. I don't remember quite their positions, but I know that he had a big say in how the characters were developed and type of archetypes that they had and stuff like that. So it seems like over the years, especially with the new timeline, NetherRealm Studios has been trying to move away from the thematic, archetype-driven storytelling, which I think really, from a storytelling perspective, is hurting the series. And I think Sindel is a big proof as to why. Because with them moving from the thematic style of storytelling with the archetypes, they're moving from the core elements of the characters. The core element, to me anyway, with Sindel as a character is tragedy. She's a tragic figure. She's a figure who loses everything. She lost her realm, she lost her husband, she lost her daughter. And that loss, depending on which timeline you go with, either causes her to commit suicide, or it drives her to make a heroic, if ultimately useless, self-sacrifice. But she's always been defined by tragedy, right? Not being able to ascend into the afterlife, being resurrected and brought back to life, not as herself, but as a mindless pawn, right? But there's also another side to her story, which is her redemption arc, which starts after she is freed from the brainwashing, her working to make things right and to make her people whole again, and to restore what little bit of her family she has left. By making her this evil, generic, lusty queen who will jump from bed to bed and from man to man so long as he's powerful, not only does it just strip her of what is unique about Sindel, it really cheapens her character, in my opinion, to just make her a generic evil queen, right? This evil, lusty, cougar queen type person. And to make her that way from the onset, it's different, if, say, this is her personality under Shao Kahn's brainwashing. That would actually make sense, because it's Shao Kahn's brainwashing. It wouldn't surprise anybody for Khan to want to make the Queen of Edenia Queen of Edenia and technically Queen of Outworld being his wife. This lusty, vain type character. That would totally make sense for a man like Khan. But to have her start out this way, to have her always be this way, it's like, how am I supposed to feel sorry for her? How is she supposed to have a redemption arc when you make her vile from the very beginning? When you don't make her sympathetic in the least? How am I supposed to cheer for her? How am I supposed to forgive her for her actions as a person invested in the story? And I want to be clear, you can do things like change a character's moral alignment or even elements of their personality without violating the core of who they are. Mortal Kombat itself has done this. It did it with Raiden, and it did it with Kung Lao. For example, in, I think it was Deception and Armageddon, Raiden became Dark Raiden, right? That was a big change in his personality and his moral compass, going from, a clearly defined good guy and a good benevolent thunder god to a much more angry, aggressive, assertive, violent thunder god, right? So he went from a goody-goody to more of an anti-hero. But here was the difference. Raiden's core as a character was never violated in that. Say what you will about, again, his personality changing to be more angry and aggressive, or his moral alignment changing, but his core element as a character, being the protector god of Earth, never changed. He just went about protecting Earth differently. But his purpose, to protect Earth, he never abandoned that. Or you can look at Kung Lao, right? There was a major personality shift in Kung Lao back in Shaolin Monks. That game gave the birth to this, and I'll admit, I don't like this version of Kung Lao, but from Shaolin Monks on, Kung Lao has been this sort of, annoying younger brother, although they're supposed to be cousins or something. I think him and Liu were supposed to be cousins, but he's been like an annoying younger brother type with this huge ego and an inferiority complex and all that. But the core element of his character, that he's a good person, a fundamentally good person who fights for Earthrealm and fights to protect people, was never changed. He was given a grating personality that he didn't have previously, but the core element of the character never ever changed. That's not the case here. They are changing the core element of Sindel, which is that she's a tragic figure, and that behind the mask, I don't know if that's a good turn of phrase, but that behind the mask, right, when she is herself, she is truly a good, benevolent person. She may look scary. She frankly is scary, right? You don't participate in Mortal Kombat by being a pansy. But fundamentally, at her heart, she is a good person. And she is a person who is defined by her tragedies and her redemption arc. When you make her a villain outright, and keep in mind, it doesn't even fit into the new timeline, because the old timeline with her ended in 10 and she was still a Revenant. Right? And you can have a dark version of a character, that's fine. I have no issue with the Revenants. I don't always like their looks. Jade. Excuse me. But I have no issue with the idea of a dark, reflection of a heroic character. But to make her evil outright, I think it's just such a violation of everything that she is. I just don't get it. I just really don't understand what NetherRealm's trying to do here. Doesn't even explain how she fits into the timeline at this point, if suddenly she's always been evil. I don't know. And at least from what I've seen of Kitana's intros with characters like Devora and Shao Kahn, Kitana doesn't seem to be aware that her mother willingly married Shao Kahn. So, how did she not know this? See, it's like, you start thinking about it and you start coming up with things like, how does Kitana not know that Sindel actually married Kahn willingly? Because from her interactions with Shao Kahn, it seems like she's unaware that her mother was complicit in her father's murder, or in, again, marrying Kahn of her own free will. She seems to be under the impression, as many fans were, that this evil version of her was still being brainwashed. So I don't get it. I don't get it. And it really just goes away from, that's RJ scratching the bed, of course he is, from the good storytelling that Mortal Kombat used to have, especially for a fighting game. What else can I say about it? You know what? I think this character, the Lusty Queen, would have been fine as a separate character. For example, Sindel is the only main Edenian character who doesn't have that dark reflection. Again, Kitana has Melina. RJ, don't you knock over my coffee. Kitana has Melina. RJ, keep your nose out my coffee. Kitana has Melina. I'm watching the cat. Jade has Tanya. Sindel doesn't have that dark counterpart. So I think what would have served NetherRealm better is to take this evil queen version, and instead of putting this personality on Sindel at the start, is to just make a new character. For example, make this character, a concubine who's in mad love with Shao Kahn, who is envious of Sindel and wants what she has, who doesn't know, or more likely doesn't care, that Sindel lost everything to be in her supposed privileged position of being Shao Kahn's Empress of Two Realms. Have her have this, irrational hatred of Sindel, of everything Sindel is and represents. Because, again, this concubine, in my mind it's a concubine, would be in love with Khan, right? But again, would just be a dark reflection of Sindel, right? Represent all the characteristics that Sindel, I guess, suppresses or whatever. Anyway, that would be interesting, I think, to have this dark counterpart to her that is not her, but is also a reflection of her, just like Tanya and Melina are for Jade and Kitana. But instead, they just want to throw this onto Sindel, because frankly, I don't think they're really invested in making new characters. They just want to mess with the old characters and mess with the lore. RJ! RJ! 1 second. So as I was saying, I think that for the most part, the writers at NetherRealm Studios either don't understand thematic storytelling and the use of archetypes, or they don't care. I'm leaning more toward they don't care. And that really offends me as a reader and as someone who likes good writing, because you can do a lot with good writing. You don't have to be stuck in a certain mold just because you use an archetype. For example, I could see a story where, for example, Sindel becomes this vengeful warrior queen because of what she's been through. That, to me, would make a lot more sense. For example, I know that in MK10, Kitana died, right? So you could basically have Sindel sort of reset, at the tragedy that pushed her to suicide or self-sacrifice, whichever timeline you go with the first time. But now that she's lost her daughter, she's basically become unhinged. And instead of choosing to die, she now chooses life. And she chooses to live her life, basically living her life basically as this violent avenger, Scorpion-esque type character who just wants her revenge, to quote Demona from Gargoyles, who wants blood for blood. And who won't rest until she sees Khan and her forces defeated, because now they've taken away, not only have they taken her husband and her literal world, but now they've taken her daughter, and that's the last straw. That is a turn I could see, because it would still play already what's already established about her, that she's a loving mother, and that she's defined by tragedy and loss, and that tragedy and loss drives her to great extremes. So I could see that. I could see Warrior Queen Sindel. But I cannot see evil at the start, never loved her husband, her people, or her child, Sindel. I think that the writers, and whether it's at NetherRealm or other places, need to respect what they've created, respect the lore, and honestly realize that just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because you can technically write anything and make anything happen because you're the one crafting the story doesn't mean you should. You should let characters grow and develop as they will. And I think as a writer, if you're a good writer or if you're a good reader, you get a sense of how a character is supposed to develop and grow. And I don't think it's like this. I really think that NetherRealm Studios has lost the plot, not only with just Sindel, but I think I can't get the name out. I think Sindel is a great example of it, but also with the series as just in general. And really, I think that unless they get John Tobias back, or they get someone who's really good at thematic storytelling and who has a good understanding of the MK lore, the core elements of it, the core elements of the characters, and who has a very good understanding of archetypes, they really need to stop here with the constant changing of the timelines. Right? People who are invested in the Mortal Kombat storyline, at least in my opinion, don't want storyline. Well, we want storylines, but don't want, for example, constant timeline changes. We just want a good story. Tell a good story, and then end that good story. I think that's all anybody who's invested in good writing and good storytelling wants. So, I think that's about it that I can think of. This is the best I got tonight. I'm sorry it's overly long and it's very, very, very rambly, but this is all that I've got in me tonight. So let me know what you think. If you like it, hate it. If you don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, let me know. I'll see you guys I actually got a computer at last. A family member picked up a computer for me, so I will actually start making videos with um, images, and it'll start. My production values are finally going to start picking up, which is good. It's just not going to happen tonight. I'm tired. I'm sick, and this is the best I got for tonight. So I hope you enjoy it. Let me know what you think. Wherever you are, have fun. Be safe. RJ wishes you well. I wish you well. Have a good day, night, afternoon, whatever you're doing. Be safe. Have fun. Bye.